Drivers, start your engines!
This is MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. One full hour of news, interviews, and opinion about the past weekend's racing action. Brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Pace car is on.
Now, here are your hosts, Woody Kane and Joey Meyer.
Green flag, green flag.
A big weekend at Kansas Speedway, especially if your name was Kyle Busch. He crossed it off the list of the tracks that he hasn't yet won at in the Sprint Cup Series and in the Camping World Truck Series. His truck went to victory lane. First-time winner, William Byron, and he will be along a little bit later on to tell us about it. I'm Woody Kane, joined as always by Joey Meyer, two-spotter on Twitter, and it was a fun weekend in Kansas, and some things that we didn't think were going to happen happened. There were some people upset a little bit after the race, especially the truck race, and as you say, that means it must have been good.
Man, those darn Cup champions are ruining the Cup Series. Oh, wait, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, does it?
You can't say it that way.
Oh, okay. So Kyle checked off another racetrack he hadn't won at, which, that's down to, what does he have, two left?
Two left now, yeah. And that
left.
place has been such a house of horrors for him. It was amazing to see that, not because he's not a good driver or anything. He's obviously a champion and a very good driver, but he's spun many times at Kansas all by himself, and he even freely admitted that place has been tough for him to figure out.
When you talk about having a monkey on your back, certain racetracks just happen to have that way with the driver. Kansas isn't a unique facility as like a Watkins Glen or a Brickyard. Kansas simulates, a number of tracks that we run on, but Kyle Busch and those guys over at Joe Gibbs Racing haven't been able to wrap their hands around it and get that trophy, but they were able to fix that issue on Sunday, or Saturday night was a great Saturday night race for Kyle and those guys. One of the drivers that needs to wrap their hands around their entire season is Martin Truex. We'll hear from him a little bit later on. Had a dominant car. Very similar to the race winner because it comes out of the same facility. So those guys have done a great job of transitioning with Joe Gibbs Racing. Martin Truex got his first pole in 5 years, just about.
That's I find that hard to believe as well.
Right. So, but they're going to close the deal here pretty soon. Again, once they realize they are a winning team, which they already do, they're going to be able to knock off 2 or 3 wins this year. I predict he'll be in the chase without a problem with at least 2 wins. That's my prediction for Martin Truex. So,
I think he will as well. Want to thank our friends from Outback Steakhouse for sponsoring the program today. You see the guest list on the side. Jeremy Bullins is the crew chief for Ryan Blaney after they had a top 5 run at Kansas. We mentioned earlier that William Byron, a first-time winner in the Camping World Truck Series, will be along, and we've got on-track, off-track for you as well, including a whole lot of audio from through the weekend from different drivers talking about a lot of topics. Don't forget, though, folks, head over to Outback today because Kevin Harvick actually had a top 10 finish, which means you get a free Bloomin' Onion. And we all love free stuff.
Drive in, free Bloomin' Onion, eat it, tastes good.
Outback Steakhouse done right. And if you're listening live on Motor Racing Network at noon on a Monday, head on over for their lunchtime specials. The combos are spectacular. They start at $6.99, endless soup and salad bar. You can create your own with things like the Aussie chicken tacos, and Joey likes, surprisingly enough, the Joey menu.
It's the only place you get food at, the Joey menu. Everything else is kind of irrelevant.
Really?
Yep.
You've upped your game a little bit there, haven't you?
It's why it's called. They named it after me.
Well, that's a lie, but at any rate, we'll go with it for now. Go to Outback and check them out, folks. Big show coming up for you today. We talked about Kyle Busch going to victory lane for the first time in the Sprint Cup Series at Kansas Speedway. Here's what he had to say afterwards.
Proud to have Adam Stevens on top of my pit box. I knew our car was really good. I knew our car was best out front. I had trouble in traffic all night long. I wasn't the best at being able to pick my way through that stuff, but when we had green flag pit stops, I really got some good holes and was able to make some good time, but the call to stay out was a no-brainer, and it certainly worked out for us. I was kind of worried about those guys that had tires behind us, but then they all crashed with tires, so that was kind of weird. But having to hold off Harvick, I thought I was going to battle my teammate Matt Kenseth. I'm not sure what happened to him, but raced Harvick really hard and really clean. Did a great job, and he had a chance probably to rough me up a little bit off turn 4 there, but he chose to be the veteran and the champion he is, and we raced it out and we raced it clean. And why I wasn't running the faster groove before that, I don't know, because I picked up time when I went back to the groove that I was running before that caution came out. So all in all, it really worked out for us.
Kevin Harvick was running him down late, and he got very close, and all of a sudden that ended, and Kyle Busch pulled away once he changed his line.
Yeah, well, and then after post-race, what we found out was Rodney Childress actually printed or tweeted a picture they hit some debris, and it caused a little bit of a hole in the nose. Now, the balance of these cars is so critical that a small blemish on the nose of the car will change the balance dramatically. And with 14 to go, as Harvick was making a good charge to get by Kyle, they ran over a piece, and it changed the handling, and we saw Kyle able to drive away.
Here's something that we've been talking about all season long in terms of the new low downforce package. The racing has been better, demonstrably so. Statistics-wise, it even meets the eye test. Guys loosening up when somebody gets behind them. The car doesn't have to be far superior to pass another car in front of it. But at Kansas, we've gone back to a little bit of what we've seen in the past couple of years at the mile-and-a-half tracks. You think maybe it is because the teams are starting to get some of this downforce back?
Yeah, we saw a lot more passing at Kansas than we had in previous races, but less than we've grown accustomed to in 2016 with the lower downforce package. There has to be some consternation on Goodyear's behalf and NASCAR's half, because now we go to Dover, but then we go right back to our home track at Charlotte, which is a similar type facility, a mile and a half, 20-degree banking or so at Charlotte for our longest race, as well as our All-Star format, which we're going to talk about in the on-track, off-track tease. That's
Look
a
at
tease.
there. How about that?
Did
Professionally done. Very nice.
Consternation and a tease in one segment.
That's pretty sporty.
But what we heard Kyle say he had trouble getting through traffic. We saw cars that were still producing looseness. There was a group of 3 of them that got loose.
Yeah, they did.
Loose down in turn 3. Raise our hand if it was us. It was with the 2, the 11, and the 42, and then we wrapped up our teammates' night as well. So we still see the symptoms of a low downforce package, with those cars being able to get turned around very easily. But we also see a little bit of the old school, a couple, 2 or 3 years, with inability to get to a car and pass. The Goodyear, the dual zone tire that we ran at Kansas wasn't really liked by a lot of the drivers, simply because it didn't wear out. And that's what Goodyear has in their hands, because, again, that's not going to be perfect in 2016. They've come a long way and done a very good job with their new tires. We haven't had a big tire issue, but that tire was almost too good for the racing surface with the cooler temperatures and the speeds that we were at. We're simply getting through the corners too fast. The tires aren't wearing out, and that's what we need to back up on.
And when you say getting through the corners too fast, the guys aren't having to lift in the turns as much, and they're keeping it wide open. And if everybody's wide open, there's not much opportunity to pass.
Exactly right. When we run the lower downforce packaging, we get a tire that wears out. We get a car that simply isn't handling good, and the driver has to lift out of the throttle to be able to make the corner. When the tire's working so good and it's not wearing out, they're on the throttle a lot longer time. And anytime you're on the throttle and the other guy's on the throttle, you don't have a chance to pass.
Absolutely. Well, as we mentioned, a big show coming up for you today on Motorsports Monday. We've got William Byron, first-time winner in the Camping World Truck Series, coming up in a couple of segments from now. We've also got our on-track, off-track segment. We're taking your Twitter questions at MRN Radio, at WYKane, or at 2Spotter. Use that hashtag AskMRN so we can find your question and get it on the air. We've got some of our fan forum questions that we'll play for you as well, and try and pitch at Joey and get him to answer along the way. But next, we've got the what?
William Byron, he's like a seasoned veteran, isn't he?
No, he's not.
Oh.
Are you going to bring He's a young phenom. I'll say it. I'll say it. I know that's where you wanted to go.
Yep.
See, look, he's all happy now. I know that's exactly where he wanted to go. But coming up in our next segment, we've got the crew chief for the top 5 finishing Wood Brothers machine, Jeremy Bullins. He'll join us on the other side.
White flag is waving now for Kyle Busch. It is the Credit One Bank, 1 to go. Kyle with the lead now, growing to 1.3 seconds. In front of Kevin Harvick is in turn 1.
A good, fast race car all night long, and most important of all, no mistakes from start to finish. Kyle Busch off turn 2 for the final time.
Halfway up the back straightaway and back into turn number 3 comes Kyle Busch. The Kansas curse is over. Kyle Busch looking for the checkered flag here tonight.
He is winless at Kansas no more. Here he comes off turn number 4 to the stripe, to the checkered flag. And Kyle Busch is a winner tonight in the Go Bowling 400.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
You know, it's everybody just trying to say my last name. They just don't finish it.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
And here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
For the most part, our hearts were wagon makers.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Motor Racing Network has always been your source for motorsports coverage when you couldn't be at the track. Now, never miss another minute of our breathtaking coverage with the MRN app, available on your iPhone or Android device. This free app delivers all the latest news, locates nearby MRN stations, streams your favorite programs, and is your home for live Sprint Cup practice and qualifying action. Search MRN in the App Store or on Google Play. It's the Motor Racing Network at your fingertips, and it's available for free right now.
Hey, I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday.
Back on the program after a strong weekend at Kansas Speedway, Woody Kane and Joey Meyer along with you. And joining us on the guest line now is the crew chief for the Motorcraft Quick Lane Racing Ford Fusion from the Wood Brothers, Jeremy Bullins on the guest line. Jeremy, welcome back to the program, man, and congratulations. You guys are just making strides every single week, it feels like.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was certainly a good weekend.
Do you, starting out in 2016, you come off your first full-time year now with the Cup Series, but you had almost 100 races. I'm not sure you're aware of this, but 100 races in the Xfinity Series, and you won 21 of them. But you jump over to the Cup Garage, and you're almost as much of a rookie as Ryan Blaney is. Do you feel that way as you guys are growing through the field, or are you a seasoned veteran?
No, I don't really feel that way. I mean, I spent a long time as a race engineer in a Cup Garage before crew chief in an Xfinity car, so you know, the garage and a lot of the people that are over there I'm familiar with, and, you know, it's really just a different role. But, you know, for sure it's a lot of fun. The competition is obviously a lot stouter on the Cup side, so it's a lot of fun to compete every week with the best in the business.
One of the things that has stuck with me is when this whole charter announcement thing came out, the Wood Brothers said, you know, if we had known that we needed to run some of these start and park races to get the charter, that might have changed our thinking. But they said we didn't want to do that. We wanted to be competitive every single week they show up. You know, you come into the season with good equipment. You know, you've got the Penske Alliance now. You guys have everything clicking in your favor, and it seems like the tracks that you've already been to before when you were running the limited schedule are now paying off with runs on the track this season. Do you feel that way as well?
I do. I think, you know, look back at Kansas last year, we finished 7th. And you got to remember, too, that we also ran Kansas with Blaney in a 12 Penske car in 2014. So that was our 3rd Cup race there. So I think if you look at everywhere that we're going back to for a 2nd or 3rd time, you know, it's always a positive trend. And as he gets more experience, he just gets better and better.
You show up at Kansas. It's one of the smoother tracks now with a fresh repave. Had a great practice and a good qualifying efforts. What issues, if any, did you fight on Friday?
Really, it wasn't too bad. You know, we kind of got on both sides of the balance. We started off a little tight, got to where it was a little free, made good decisions on how to split the difference, had a good qualifying run. You know, ran pretty much top 10 all night, had good pit stops. It was just a smooth weekend. It's the kind you wish you had every week.
Tell me a little bit about this. What Joey and I were talking about before you came on the air is we started off the season, everybody talking low downforce package, and it almost feels a little bit now like you guys have gone back to the drawing board and gotten a little bit of that downforce back. Do you feel that way as well?
Well, I think, you know, anytime you have a rules change, the teams are all going to get to work. You know, you can take a downforce away. The teams are going to find some of it back. We're constantly trying to make our cars better. I think, you know, that's just the nature of the sport. I think that's the nature of what we do. We're always trying to make things better. We're not going to sit around and not, you know, cry that we don't have downforce. We're going to try to find some more. And if we had high downforce package or low downforce package, we're still going to try to find more. So that's just the nature of the business, and that always will evolve.
One of the challenges that you face as a crew chief with a yellow striped bumper, because of Ryan Blaney being the rookie driver, is you have 2 other teammates with Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano as the drivers and Paul Wolfe and Todd Gordon. How much effort goes into realizing you have a rookie driver and just throwing another setup in and go, hey, go learn, versus allowing Ryan to try to dictate or describe to you what he needs in the race car?
Well, I think, you know, the cool thing about the Penske Alliance is we have, you know, access to their information. We can look at setups that they've run in the past and things like that, and then we can kind of apply what we feel like Ryan needs based off that, and it gives us a good baseline. And that's kind of what we did this weekend. You know, said, okay, Joey won the race last fall. Let's build a setup kind of based off what the 22 did, and then adapt it to what Ryan needs. And we were able to do that during practice, and it worked out good for us.
Knowing that, though, and that you've got the new package this year, how much of the notes can you really take from last year? Is it completely different, or is some of that stuff translating over?
Well, I mean, the great thing is with your simulation tools and things like that, you can kind of account for the changes in aero balance and things like that, and you change how your car is set up to match that downforce level. So it's things that our engineers are working on all the time, and they do a really good job with it.
As we move forward now, you head up to Dover, and that's going to be a little bit of a different animal. A lot of guys we've talked to describe it like being on a roller coaster, and the way it drops off coming out of the turns and the high banks there, almost like a giant Bristol. From a crew chief's perspective, trying to set up for a track like that, how challenging is it? Because you know that car is really going to land.
It certainly is one of the biggest, what we call a landing event going into the corners of anywhere we go. It's a racetrack that'll change a lot as it takes rubber and picks up rubber under caution, and it'll change a lot throughout the weekend if you get rain and washes the track off, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of challenges that come with Dover. It's one place that we have not run a cup race with Ryan. He and I have actually never worked there together. There's a lot of places where we've run an Xfinity car or something like that, but he's run trucks, he's run Xfinity, but we've never raced there together. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good challenge for us, but we're looking forward to it.
One of the things in 2016 and every year since we've had the chase, you look at the first 26 races to get in the chase, the last 10 races in the chase. But one of the interesting battles you are partaking in is the rookie class of 2016. Do you pay attention to it and grade your driver so far a third of the way through the season?
Obviously the rookie battle is there. I think there's a good field of guys this year. You got Chase in 24 and Chris Buescher and some of those guys. But, I don't necessarily think we pay attention to it because I don't want to get caught up in racing one guy. I feel like we're racing the whole field and trying to do the best we can as a race team. And, that stuff takes care of itself if you do a good job. And, we've got a little ground to make up, but, we keep doing what we did this week, and that stuff will take care of itself. And, I think when you look at Ryan's performance so far this year, I think he's done a great job. I don't know how to put a letter grade on it, but I think you look at some of the places like Phoenix and places we'd gone to for the first time. Atlanta is another one that we were looking at finishing 12th or 13th until we got wrecked on that last restart, But I think you look at the places that he's gone to for the first time, he's done a really, really good job. And so I'm looking forward to going to Dover and Pocono and places like that where we haven't raced, because I think he just adapts really quickly. So from that standpoint, it's a high grade. I don't know how to grade it, but it's really good.
I was going to say, you guys have been fast just about everywhere. You may not have gotten the finishes that you deserved at every single track, but almost every team is able to say that. We're chatting with Jeremy Bullins, the crew chief for the Wood Brothers number 21, the Motorcraft Quick Lane Racing Ford Fusion. And as we move forward now, Jeremy, a lot has been made of this whole 5 lug nuts, 5 on, 5 off type deal. Has that been as big a deal for you guys as it's been made, or is it just kind of, okay, here's what we got to do and let's just go do it?
Well, I think the key thing is whenever there's a change in a rule or a change in enforcement, and however you want to look at it, you need a couple of weeks to kind of see where things stand and how the rules enforced and what their definition of safe and secure and all that, what the rule says, what that means to everybody. And I think we're starting to get a clearer picture of that, and everybody kind of understands how to move forward.
After we get done with Dover, we get a couple of weeks at home, and we have a unique opportunity for the very new format for the All-Star race. Have you guys already sat down and looked at strategies for that?
Yeah, we've talked about, obviously for us being in the showdown, looking at, what it takes to win one of those segments and advance to the All-Star race. And then, we plan on doing that. So once we put ourselves in there, obviously start thinking about that format and how that'll play out. And it definitely should be interesting. It's a big change from what we've had in the past.
Jeremy, one of the things I always think is interesting in talking to crew chiefs is how far ahead you guys have to look. Give folks an idea right now of in the shop, what cars are you working on to get ready for? Because you can't just go week to week to week, or you'll get so far behind you'll never catch up.
No, it's easily there's certain levels of it. Obviously your primary focus is next week. That's the next race in front of you. But we do our build sheets as far as how the cars get assembled. We do those 3 to 4 weeks out. And then, when you're looking at developmental stuff or new specs, new builds, things like that, they can be 6 months out, So, there's things that I guess, a rank of priorities, and obviously you got to stay focused on what's right in front of you, which is the next race. But for the assembly guys to have work to do to put cars together to be ready, that stuff's a month out, and then as we're trying to figure out how to make our cars better and get things ready for the end of the year, and by the time you start talking about when you leave Talladega, you're working on Daytona Speedway development. So it never stops. There's just different phases of what it is that you're working on and how long it takes to get there.
Well, it certainly has been a strong start to the season, and as Joey is very, very fond of saying, if the chase were to start today, you guys would be in it. And by the way, he's also very proud of looking up that stat that you did 99 races and had 21 wins. He thought that was one of those numerology things, so he's really proud of himself for that. I just want you to know that.
Well, I think it's pretty cool to be on your show going to Dover, because we have a very special memory of being at Dover. And Joey didn't get the memo that it was a Hertz car, and he's the only guy in the Victory Lane photo with a big Discount Tire shirt on. So it's a very special memory that Joey and I share, and I look forward to bringing that up and headed to Dover.
I'm just glad you took time out of lunch today to join us on the show. I really appreciate it.
Stop it. Fantastic. Jeremy, you just made my day by telling me that story. I get to beat him up for the rest of the day about it. Always appreciate your time, man. Continued success.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy. Good job.
There you go. Jeremy Bullins, a crew chief on the number 21 Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford at the Wood Brothers. And, boy, they are just steadily getting better. And as he mentioned, you can even see the races that they haven't gotten the finishes it looked like they were headed toward. They've been fast.
We used to put rookies in a car and expect a lot of mistakes, and then because that's why they put the yellow bumper on the car to kind of give you a free pass.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're not seeing those mistakes. We're seeing an excellent effort from Chris Buescher, like he said, Brian Scott, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, all those guys are not we're not talking about them being rookies. We're just talking about that team and their performances, and that's what those guys are looking for. They do have the strength of a Team Penske alliance. They do have the strength of being able to rely on the Joeys and the Brads and Todd and Paul and everybody putting it together. It's essentially the performance, what we expect from a three-car team, but it is still a separate operation with the Wood Brothers. We see a lot of those alliances that are working really well, as we mentioned with Martin Truex, his alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, and it's working very well for those guys as well.
Absolutely it is. Now, one guy we need to mention before we wrap up this segment, Martin Truex Jr., you talked about him a little bit earlier, had a dominating type day. Looked like he was going to run off and win this thing and winds up with not the finish that they hoped for.
Well, they always get on eggshells every time Martin seems to run good, and I was participating in a race, I think it was Atlanta or Texas, and we had the race clearly won.
Did you have the right shirt on that day?
I did have the right crew uniform shirt on, but we come back through a restart. We had better tires. It was one of those scenarios to where we pitted because we were the leader and a bunch of cars stayed out. So we were going to drive through the field with these tires. The 11 car runs out of gas right in front of us, and we hit him firewall deep and ruins our day. But that was just one of many examples that Martin Truex seems to always have that monkey on his back. Those guys need to have the confidence moving forward that their performance, that their pit crew, that the crew chief's going to make all the changes and the adjustments during the race. That they're going to, again, once they click off one win, I still predict 2 or 3 wins this year for those guys because their performance is simply there. They have a problem which is easily identifiable.
Which is?
Their mistakes.
Right.
Performance, they have. Those guys, other people in the garage are going, we want what they have.
Yeah.
We'll fix our mistakes if we can run as good as them.
Yeah.
So what their problem is very identifiable. The performance is there, and that's what gets you to the front.
Hard part's out of the way for sure. We got to take another time out here on Motorsports Monday. William Byron will join us on the other side. First-time winner in the Camping World Truck Series. But as we go to break, we were talking about Martin Truex Jr. Here's what he had to say following the GoBowling400.com at Kansas.
Sum up your night for you. What was your reaction when you found out there was an issue?
You got to be kidding me, was my reaction, and I couldn't believe it. You always know there's a possibility of those kind of things happening. You just hope that earlier in the race you can overcome them. I mean, we certainly had a car fast enough we could have overcome that if it was earlier. Just out of time at the end. So I could see 10th right in front of me at the end. I come all the way from the back of the line. Just needed a little bit more time. So frustrating, but proud of my guys, and what a race car they brought. So I don't know, just go to Dover and see if we can't get them there.
I saw Coach Gibbs come by and give you a pat on the back. What did he say to you?
He wanted me to know exactly what was wrong. The pit crew guys trained at his place, so he felt responsible. Just wanted to let me know what it was.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 McDonald Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
If you haven't checked out MRN.com's exclusive online programming, you've missed a lot. MRN Motorsports Monday. Review and preview the NASCAR weekends. Winged Nation talk winged sprint cars. The latest from the NHRA. On the straight line. Dirt, late model, modified, and big block modified talk. Slinging dirt. NASCAR regional, local, and international series on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Exclusive original online motorsports talk on MRN.com.
Stay up to date with the latest news from the NASCAR Garage weekdays on NASCAR Today, midday.
We can enhance the fans' experience, and I think that's what we really need to zero in on and provide.
Hear from the drivers and teams as they chase the 2016 championship trophy.
Change is good in our sport. It re-energizes people, makes everybody, step up to the plate, so to speak.
NASCAR Today, midday, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network, your source for NASCAR news.
Hey, I'm Martin Truex Jr. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday. Joey Meyer? Is that the Joey Meyer, the spotter? Pilot? Joey Meyer, pilot, spotter, is on the radio? You guys actually, wow. Can you record this? Can you record this and be like, wow, Joey Meyer's on the radio. Unbelievable.
White flag in the air, 1 lap to go. Sauter, Rhodes, Byron, Crafton, Hemrick, the top 5 for the final time into one.
Ben Rhodes looks to the outside of Johnny Sauter. William Byron dives to the bottom across the nose of Matt Crafton. Final time, off turn number 2, Johnny Sauter has the lead.
Johnny Sauter now dives through the bottom of the backstretch, trying to break the draft. Quickly snaps back in line. Here's contact in the leaders. Sauter's around. Now they got Ben Rhodes in the wreck. And cleaning all the way across the start-finish line, headed that way would be William Byron.
And William Byron, in only his 5th NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race at the ripe old age of 18, is going to be going to Gatorade Victory Lane.
And joining us on the guest line now is the driver of the #9 Liberty University Tundra. He wins the Camping World Truck Series race at Kansas Speedway. William, congratulations, man. It looked like you had that thing well in hand, and then, here comes the caution. What were you thinking then?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a crazy race. The last restart, I was definitely not looking forward to having a caution there at the end. We had, I think, a 5-second lead, and just were cruising to the white flag, but unfortunately that's what happens, and we were able to rebound and really earn it with that last restart, and be in the right place at the right time, and sometimes that's what it takes.
One of the unique things that NASCAR has done in 2016 is they allowed us to show up a day with a lot of practice to prevent us from having to do tests earlier in the season for these racetracks. What issues did you have? It doesn't appear like any, but what issues did you guys actually work on in those 3 different practice segments?
Yeah, I mean, we unloaded, and I think judging from the notes last year, we all expected to be wide open and with the trucks, and that definitely wasn't the case. So we had to work on our truck and get it to where we could run at least close to wide open during the daytime, and get it to handle well around other trucks. So that was the biggest thing, and also picking up on the racetrack a little bit the first couple runs. So it definitely helps having the added practice. It helps having a chance to have time to get around other trucks and figure out what you need for the race.
Okay, here's one of the things that I think is really cool. Now we were joking before the show that so many drivers these days start so young, but you didn't even get your first Legends car until 2012, right? And then you won the K&N Pro Series East Championship last year. You've had a rapid rise, right?
It's been kind of crazy how it's all happened. I started racing when I was almost 15 years old. I was 14. I raced one race when I was 14, and then moved up Legend cars when I was 15, and it's really happened so fast. But I've always wanted to be a race car driver, and I didn't grow up in a racing family, so I was able to start in Legend cars. U.S. Legend Cars has a great program at Charlotte Motor Speedway that trains young kids, and I was able to race there in the summer shootout, and move up into late models and then the K&N series.
Yeah, so one of the things that you're having to do is adapt. We're 5 races in total of your Truck Series career coming off the K&N Championship. What's been the biggest transition between the K&N cars and the trucks?
The biggest thing is definitely the aerodynamics of the trucks. Also the tire. Being on a radial tire, I've been on a bias ply tire or a short track tire. That's you can slide around on. And with this, it's definitely a different experience. But I have got a lot of great coaches around me with Kyle and my team with my crew chief Rudy Fugel. So they kind of keep me in line and kind of give me a preview of what I should maybe feel or think about. So I really lean on those guys.
Speaking of Rudy, let's go back a little bit now. You and several other guys were in the situation of trying to save gas to make it to the end of that race at Kansas, and then you build the big lead, and you were even down on the apron at some point trying to save gas along the way. Then we come back after the caution, and you got this big restart coming up, and a couple of guys get out in front of you. What was the communication like then between you and your crew chief, and what kinds of things were you thinking of? How do I get this back?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just my spotter and my spotter Tony Hirschman up on the roof, and then myself just in the seat, just not giving up on the situation. I think Tony was telling me, make sure you time your run to get back to him, and I really didn't expect having a chance to get back to even third because everything I've grown up in racing, if you see cars driving by you on the bottom, 5 or 6 of them, then there's no way you're going to get those back. But with the trucks, thankfully, there's side draft and there's all these things that you can get runs on guys, and I just use that stuff to my advantage to get back to have a position. And then on the last lap, it was really just about timing my run to maybe put them 3 wide and get the win that way. But thankfully, they got into each other and kind of made it even easier on us.
You're chatting with seasoned veteran, 5 races in, race winner, William Byron. Still can't buy beer. You probably had homework from high school. Good night, son. Very, very young age, which is awesome because you have a bright, bright future. Dale Jr. mentioned driving the late model series over there for those guys. But besides you and your crew chief, you also have some teammates outside of the KBM Motorsports. Do you guys lean on each other as youngsters, or do you compete against? So we have young drivers on the show once in a while, and they're best friends, Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace, to name a few. Are you guys competing at that level, or are you still pretty good friends?
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing is staying close to your teammates and helping them when they need help. I mean our team's really open here at KBM, and Christopher Bell. We had Cody Coughlin in the 51 this weekend, and sometimes Daniel Suarez too. The key is just helping them. If you can't win the race, then being in position to help them win the race, and then if it's between the two of you guys, then so be it. You battle it out. But that's a big thing, and Christopher and I have a pretty open notebook with each other, and that just helps the progression of the 2 teams.
Joey mentioned your team owner, Kyle Busch, earlier, and I don't know if you got a chance to hear this. We wanted to play a little clip for you, get you to hear what your team owner had to say, and then get your reaction to it. So check this out.
That was pretty interesting and pretty entertaining, I'm sure, for all the fans here, and of course those listening on the radio and many watching on TV. But just proud of William Byron, proud of Kyle Busch Motorsports, all these guys, everybody that does such a great job. We pour a lot of effort into all this stuff and what we do, and it's cool to see the fastest truck win the race. There he had a bad restart, wasn't the greatest, and being able to get up through the gears and having the guy behind him push him, which they're all racing for the win. That's what you expect. But, certainly got a little bit lucky there with the crash that happened in front of us and was able to miss the crash and then to go to victory lane. So that's pretty cool.
How cool is it, William, to have a Sprint Cup champion as your team owner like Google? You can go to him and ask him anything.
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, he's on the radio with us during the races sometimes, and he just helps with advice. And he's just a great asset to this program. He's always pushing us to be better, and even in a win like that, he's up there, asking, hey, what do you think you could do better next time? And that's just how you get better. So the important thing is that we just stay focused and keep getting advice from him and kind of not turning away just because you think you have it figured out, because there's always something to learn no matter what. So that's the important thing.
Yeah, William, every track we go to now, essentially for the rest of this year, because your career lasts for 5 races, we keep bringing that up. It's amazing the young talent going up. How do you prepare for a racetrack you've never seen or been to?
Honestly, videos and going on YouTube and watching, whether it be the Cup guys, watching their onboard cameras or watching just the race broadcasts. I just try and visualize what it's going to be like or what things work and kind of check off what things don't work or maybe haven't worked for guys in the past. So I think that's the biggest thing, and also relying on my teammates and guys that have been there before.
Okay, now here's what I got to ask you about the relationship with Liberty University, because my understanding is, are you skipping school right now or skipping class? Because Joey can write you a note if you need to. Is that what we got to do?
Yeah, I'm still in high school, so I'm skipping. I've skipped a few classes today for some things, but it's all fine, and I'll go back to class today. But next year I'll be in college at Liberty up in Lynchburg, Virginia.
But you're already taking some classes, right?
I am. Yeah, I've taken 6 so far, so I take those in addition, kind of after school, and that's basically what I do.
Wow, I mean, I guess that's the way the world is right now. Is that you can get so much preparation early before you ever get to college and feel like you can hit the ground running, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's a great program. Liberty University has over 100,000 online students. And it's really neat to have that support and get a further my education.
That's fantastic, man. We want to congratulate you on your first win in the Camping World Truck Series. We know it'll be the first of many, and looking forward to Dover this weekend and seeing you perform again up there. Congratulations on a strong start to the season and your first win.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good job, William.
And we'll send the note from Joey to get you back in class.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That's William Byron, first-time winner in the Camping World Truck Series. How cool is that?
He's in high school.
You better write him a note now and don't get him in trouble.
He's in high school.
Yeah.
And he beat 40-year-old Matt Crafton. These veterans, Timothy Peters. But he also had a bunch of youngsters breathing down his neck the entire time. Again, the Craftsman Truck Series, wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
The Camping World Truck Series, it provides an opportunity for a lot of young drivers, even high school students, to be able to get out there and participate on the exact same tracks that NASCAR champions do. And it provides an avenue, and it's exactly what we talked about 100 times on the show. He's been given an opportunity. It doesn't mean he just gets the opportunity.
Right.
But when he gets in the seat, he obviously proves he can do it by
He
not
showed
only running up
something,
front. Exactly right. So he's got a really good sponsor, a good team over at KBM Motorsports. We've seen the youngsters with John Nemechek. Those guys are looking for a sponsor. So the different avenues in the Camping World Truck Series are provided. KBM Motorsports has sponsors. John Nemechek needs a sponsor, but they're both competing at the high level. We saw a rookie or kind of a rookie mistake with Joe's son, John, that allowed those guys to get involved in a wreck early on. But William Byron is one of those guys, again, not making the mistakes and brought home his truck to victory lane.
That's fantastic. But now, speaking of mistakes, in front of William Byron at the end of that thing, there was a little bit of a tangle-up. Johnny Sauter got out front, and then Ben Rhodes comes up. Let's hear first what Ben Rhodes had to say.
From my perspective, Johnny came down the track to block me on the back straightaway, so I was up high. Then he started coming back up, and he left the bottom open, which the replay doesn't do it justice from where I was sitting at. And he started coming back down to block it again. And that time I was wanting to check up, but I got on the brakes. It started getting a little loose on me, and I was just where I was at. I feel really bad for Johnny as well. Rookie mistake on my part. I should have known that he was going to try to come down and block it again. I should have just stuck on the top, ran it wide open, and see him. I could have got a good finish. We really need the points right now. So just disappointing. We had a shot to win it, and I just wanted to take it because the chase format's so hard to get into this year. And competition's so tough. I just really hate it for my guys. I'm really disappointed in it.
Yeah, now William Byron all but secured himself a spot in that chase, and you look at Ben Rhodes there, a young guy, and as you mentioned, we had some guys upset after this race, and that must have meant it was good.
Yeah, let's hear the other version of that same story.
All right.
Well, we just had a great restart, and the 41 truck is just obviously in way over his head, and just obviously can't judge closing speeds, and just drove into us and ran us over. So our Allegiant Travel Chevy was unbelievable tonight. Proud of everybody at GMS, all the guys in the shop. Come from the back twice, and I felt like we had the dominant truck, and we finally got there when we needed to, and just got ran over.
Is this something you're going to remember if you find yourself battling Ben Rhodes again?
Of course. I mean, that's the stupidest move I think I've seen anybody do in a long time. It's idiotic. I don't know where he was going. I mean, there was no path for him to even finish the race what he did. So he's just dumb, I guess. I don't know. But you better believe it. I'm pissed off.
There you go, Johnny Sauter and Ben Rhodes back to back.
And on a side note, one of the things we don't ever get to hear the interview is after the race, the next day, cooler heads prevailed. We were able to watch some replays, and from my sources, inside scoop, Johnny actually texted Ben Rhodes and said, "Hey, my bad. I realized exactly how it happened, how the race played out, and the conversation was a lot more friendly than two drivers having completely different views of the race. That's good for them. They'll work their things out. Ben didn't do it on purpose. Johnny just going for the win, which is what we ask our drivers to do. He was the lead truck. He essentially took a lane away that wasn't there. Ben was committed to his line, and the two trucks occupied the same space at the same time, and we saw the end result. William Byron put his truck in, which was one of the fastest trucks all night out front. He was able to come home as a winner, but he watched that wreck happen right in front of us. And then Daniel Hemrick, who I got to work with all afternoon, we were able to finish third. We had a good night. Had a little difficult issue on pit road with a mechanical failure with an issue twice, which was very unusual, but he was able to battle back and finish third. We were going to go outside of William on the high line on the restart. He did exactly what he had to do. William did by blocking us a little bit, allowed the bottom lane to get by us, but we were in position to capitalize on a victory possibly to get BKR in victory lane, but we finished third, and it was a great night for us as well.
There you go. And the Camping World Truck Series back in action this weekend at Dover. The top 10 guys separated by just 21 points. So they're very, very close early in the season. Another time out here on Motorsports Monday. When we come back, on track, off track, some listener questions as well. Stick around, everyone.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Slingin' Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand.
Hey, I'm Michael Waltrip. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday.
Hey, that was former Motorsports Monday guest Michael Waltrip.
Two-time Daytona 500 winner, Michael Waltrip.
And you just like to say that because you work those races, right? Yeah. Were you wearing the right shirt that day?
Yes, I had the right shirt on. I got the memo.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, let's do a little on-track, off-track. For those of you who are new to the program, this is where Joey and I talk about some things we think are going well and some things that maybe aren't going quite so well in the world of NASCAR racing. Let's start off with on-track. What do you have?
You know, we've had two guests on today with Jeremy Bullins being the crew chief for Ryan Blaney. We had William Byron on representing the winner in the Camping World Truck Series. The 2016 veterans class, their guys are retiring. They're getting older. We see Tony Stewart retiring at the end of this year. Jeff Gordon retired last year. Somebody has to take their places. These seats are going to be open and vacant in the years to come. We have an amazing group of young kids coming up through the sport right now. Two of them currently sitting in the top 11 and 16th in points with Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney. And that's in the Premier Series, in our Sprint Cup Series. In the Xfinity Series, we have rookies that are in 6th, 7th, and 8th in points. Those guys are representing that series class very, very well. And just this weekend, we had three rookies, William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Cole Custer, finish in the top 10 at a very, very competitive racetrack in Kansas. the promising young future for those kids and the future of NASCAR with the veterans retiring at the end of their careers in the 40s and the 50 years old that we see going on with Tony's and the Jeffs and Matt Kenseth in the future here. We're going to see this young group come up, and it's very promising to have such young talent showcased. They're still in high school.
Yeah, well, William Byron is, yeah absolutely. But
Yeah.
a couple of other names I wanted to mention. You talked about a lot of the rookies. Daniel Suarez tied for the lead in the Xfinity Series right now, and that's a whole nother thing. Not only a young up-and-coming driver, but to bring the Latino market into NASCAR more and more. And then what about Ty Dillon? All the experience he's getting this year filling in for Tony Stewart as well.
Yeah, we have the truck again. Going to the trucks, we got Daniel Hammock, Ryan Truex, Tyler Young, John Nemechek, William Byron, Brandon Brown, Parker Kligerman. These guys can barely buy beer. And that's the future of our
that
sport.
seems to be a theme with you today.
Well,
it's the
it's
Miller
just-
Lite thing. I
exactly.
got it.
So it's amazing that they're 20 years old, give or take 4 or 5 years. So we have another 30 years for those guys to be potentially in the sport. That's very, very promising.
That's a long time to think about for sure. All right, now this is related to a Twitter question we got along the way as well, asking about the new All-Star format. That's my on-track. I love what they've done with the suggestions that they've taken into effect this year. Essentially, they're going to have a couple of 50-lap segments, and then for that last one, they're going to have a fan vote as to whether the top 9, 10, or 11 cars have to come down pit road for tires, putting guys with old tires toward the front of the field. Is this going to be one of those situations like they say in the sitcom descriptions, mayhem ensues?
Well, again, we used the word consternation earlier. We're hoping that we don't see a similar issue from Kansas as we did in Charlotte. We're not expecting it to. We're expecting the tires to wear better and wear off and have speeds fall off, so you're going to have the top 9, 10, or 11 guys that are pitting, which means the other cars are going to move up and essentially 10 cars out on old tires. There's going to be a lot of passing, a lot of beating and banging. For $1 million, only 13 laps. So the idea evidently was drummed up by a driver that had nothing else better to do, evidently.
Well, that's what I was going to say. One of the things I like most about this is it came from the Drivers' Council. NASCAR listening to what the Drivers' Council says, and specifically your driver, Brad Keselowski. A lot of drivers outed him, if you want to call it that, as the brains behind this concept.
One of the things about Brad that I can honestly say that makes me very happy is he cares about the sport. He cares about all 3 series, Truck Series, Xfinity Series, Cup Series. He cares about the future. He's investing money like Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch is to have his own teams. So when it comes time for an opportunity to produce something, you're like, well, if you got a better idea, show us. And he said, okay, I will. And he produced a format that right now everybody likes going into the All-Star format. We won't be able to have a full critique until after the race, but we're all experiencing joy over the fact that we know how the 50, 50, and 13 are going to work.
Yeah, I like the idea that they're trying something different. Whether or not it works is a different animal entirely, but we'll see. I just like the idea that they're willing to try something new. Okay, let's shift over to off-track now, and what's something that you think isn't going quite so well?
You know what we saw the officiating on Friday night's truck race. I just get disappointed in the fact that we missed a call and actually had an opportunity to review the call and got it wrong. Now, NASCAR did come out on Saturday and said they missed a restart call. It was on their bad. In fact, I think Richard Buck said our bad on that, where Timothy Peters was on the inside line and he jumped. We simply can't have – that's a pretty large mistake when we see restarts that aren't being officiated and the call, because we got called on it several races back in Loudon. You just don't want to see those kind of mistakes being able to affect a race. Fortunately, the outcome wasn't affected. But at that point in time, man, it's one of the 3 premier sports. Take the opportunity to review that and then get it right. Let's not make those kind of mistakes moving forward.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We don't want to see those kind of mistakes. But for the folks who are saying, oh, NASCAR needs to get their act together, they're just having all kinds of problems. I'll remind you that a report came out at the end of one of the NBA playoff games last week that, what was it, like 5 missed calls in the final 13 seconds. So this happens everywhere.
Absolutely.
There are human beings involved, and when you have that factor, there are going to be some mistakes along the way.
Absolutely, and it was cool that NASCAR came out and said, hey, we made the mistake. Let's just try to do a better job moving forward, and we won't have that mistake to even review. They do take the time to review a restart. I'm not really sure what the issue was when they reviewed it, that they couldn't see that Timothy Peters jumped. But again, just to try to clean it up a little bit, let's make us we're the top 3 sports of the series in the country, so let's just do a better job of it.
All right, for off track for me, and I'll tell you what got me thinking about this. It has to do with NASCAR's 2017 schedules, which just came out last week for all 3 of the top national touring series. What got me thinking about it was a tweet that you put out there that showed a guy getting kicked in the, you'll like this, nether regions. And after that, I started thinking, man, we had 2 off weekends, or 3 off weekends, and now we've only got 2. But a lot of it is the function of the calendar. I just wish there was some way they could preserve that, because I don't think a lot of fans necessarily have an idea of how grueling this schedule is, even though you get 3 races at Charlotte every year, so you don't have to work for those 3.
Yeah, somebody that's what's had a tweet about that, is that guy should be grateful that I got 3 weekends extra at home being in Charlotte. But it is a long season. It's one of the longest seasons in any major sports that we run. We start in February. We run all the way to the weekend before Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, NASCAR didn't add any races for the 2017 schedule, but they took a weekend away. Well, how does that work? Simply dictated is we have a bookend of Daytona that starts the season. We have the weekend before Thanksgiving that ends our season in Homestead. There's only so many weekends in between that. We got an extra weekend in the off season, which we call the non-racing season, because there's very little going off that we're not racing. We're still working our guts out. But what happened is there's just a number of weekends between February and November, and we were only having, let's just say there's 40 weekends. We got 38 races. You only have 2 weekends off. It wasn't an intentional move by NASCAR. It was kind of a byproduct of the schedule for 2017.
It's math.
It'll work itself out. We loved having 3 weekends off. Loved it because it divided the season into 3 distinct groups. We were able to start out the season, have a break, have a second third of the season, take a break, and then really get geared up for that last 12 weeks, 13 week for the chase, last 10 races specifically. But we enjoyed those 3 weeks.
I remember how happy you were when you found that out last year.
And what happens is a lot of weekends that in June is the only weekend that a lot of our kids are out of school.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. A lot of our planning goes into around our kids. They were out of school in June, and now we've lost that weekend. It'll turn back up somewhere, assuming the schedule doesn't take a major change, which it sounds like the racetracks run a 5-year or 4-year plan.
Yeah.
So that's
which is part of the reason the schedules come out so early now, so they can let folks know and plan ahead of time.
It's exactly right. It wasn't something that was intentionally done, but it doesn't take away the pain suffered from getting kicked in the nether regions.
You like that, didn't you? I knew you'd like that. All right, there you go. On track, off track for this episode. Now let's move on to our fan forum hotline. It's open 24/7. Any questions, comments, anything you have, you want us to ask a driver question, to ask questions of any of the shows, you can do that on the fan forum hotline. We got a couple this week. First up is Dave in South Carolina.
I got a solution for Daytona and Talladega. Why don't they use a smaller size engine in those 2 races? That might solve half the problem.
Smaller engines for Daytona and Talladega.
We've been down this avenue before for a number of years. The Busch Series, back in the day when it was the Busch Series, ran V6s. The engine guys, anybody at Robert Yates Racing or Hendrick Motorsports in the motor program that's listening to our show that just heard that caller, they just cringed. Because to have 4 races where you run a distinctly different motor would take their budget and literally not just double it, would probably quadruple it because the technology involved in running a smaller motor.
But isn't a plate engine different from a regular engine anyway?
Absolutely, it's different. But the issue is if everybody is still running wide open, in other words, if we run smaller motors, then we're going to be going slower, which I think the caller is trying to dictate. We run a slower car. We're still going to be in packs.
Right. The problem is the packs, not necessarily the speed.
That's exactly right. The reason we look back on history and we don't see the major big wrecks, we still saw a lot of wrecks and cars getting up in the air, was because the better car was able to pull away from the slower car. We saw Bill Elliott come from 2 or 3 laps down when he qualified for over 212 miles an hour. His car was simply dominant that day. Well, today's day and time with the restrictor plates, a dominant car can't pull away from the pack. He's just going to lead the pack, as we saw a couple of weeks ago with the 2 car, able to lead the pack and manage those gaps up front. That's what we're looking for to gain. We're never going to get back there because the rule packages dictate now that all these cars run together. They're very similar in speed, and it's really the driver talent and the ability to stay out front is what we're looking at.
All right, next we have Travis in Ohio.
Just curious if there's any word on who's going to take over after spring drops out at the end of the season.
There you go. New title sponsor. Sprint is their contract ends after this season.
Yeah, what we've heard now is they've looked at 6 or 7 major players in the sport that they're going to announce here, hopefully in the very near future, and they've already actually weeded out potential people that were interested because it simply didn't match. NASCAR has been interviewing a number of companies, and we've had a lot of interest with 6 or 7 that NASCAR feels like it's a good fit for the sport as in the image, but we've actually been able to weed out, which is interesting because if you only had one, you wouldn't care who it was. You'd say, hey, I want to take their money. But the simple fact is with NASCAR's popularity, they have had some sponsors come in and go, hey, we'd like to sponsor you. NASCAR is able to turn them down, which means they have really good 6 or 7 still sitting in line.
Right. There's a lot of things involved. A is the fit, the match between the two. Two, NASCAR wants a big long-term deal, so they're not changing every few years. And I've read and heard some things that they want it to be a company who's like Nextel was when they came in, who's trying to build their brand, or a company that does like package goods where they're trying to increase their distribution. Like, I'm pulling a name out of the air. This is nothing that's in the works, but something like a Coke or something along those lines that has a mass product like that.
Yeah, you're looking to appeal to a lot of fans. I mean, obviously we've seen a monster gain in just our cell phone packages and the actual cell phone itself since Sprint before was Nextel took over. Remember back in the day we had push-to-talk phones. They don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, right. Those are gone.
We now have smartphones, and that all happened during the Nextel Sprint series. And as Sprint moves out, we're looking to gain another avenue with somebody else that can grow their product.
All right, another time out here on Motorsports Monday. When we come back, we'll go lightning round with some of your Twitter questions. Stick around.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Race on over to mrn.creekstonefarms.com now through June 8th and enter our Sizzlin' Steak Sweepstakes, where you can win a gift certificate good for $500 in Creekstone Farms premium Black Angus beef and all-natural Duroc pork. No purchase necessary, open to legal residents of the 50 United States and District of Columbia who are 21 or older at time of entry. If you want America's best Black Angus beef ribeyes, fillets, all-natural pork tenderloins, baby back ribs, and more, you've got the green light. Go to mrn.creekstonefarms.com and enter today.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Join the Motor Racing Network every Tuesday evening for NASCAR Live. Eli Gold, along with the cast of MRN personalities, will take you into the sport of NASCAR like you've never heard before.
And the intent was right there. There wasn't no, oh, oops, I bumped into him. This was, look out, here I come.
And what would NASCAR be without the fans?
As a fan, it was like, whoa.
It's NASCAR Live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
I'm Bubba Wallace, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Hey, Bubba, pretty cool having Bubba Wallace there. You know, he's a
Ryan Blaney's
big-time
friend.
race car driver.
It's Ryan Blaney's friend.
All right, let's go to Twitter questions now using the hashtag AskMRN. Zach Copeland wants to know, how many race winners will we see entering the chase, and who's more disappointed with not having a win so far, the 20 or the 22?
No, I think the 20, and that's a good gamble. I think the 22 firmly expected to have some wins. I think we'll see right at 13 or 14 winners by the time we get to Richmond in 2016.
Yeah, Kenseth's been fast as well in the 20 and probably should have had a win by now as well. Okay, Briar Starr wants to know, do you think Joe Gibbs Racing is the new Hendrick Motorsports? Seems like they've got it all figured out and they're dominating.
Well, you know, you look at the points, and we have Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards second and third in points with a total of 5 wins. But Jimmy's with 2. Dale and those guys are sitting right there. I don't think they're the new Hendrick Motorsports. I just think it's Joe Gibbs Racing. Hendrick Motorsports still has a strong group of 4 cars. They are the Hendrick team. They are the Chevrolet representative team, where Joe Gibbs Racing is the Toyota team.
The flagship for that
exactly
organization.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if there is Joe Gibbs Racing doing exactly what Joe Gibbs Racing is expected to do.
All right. Then NASCAR fan 170 wants to know your thoughts on the caution clock. He thinks it needs to go. It caused a chain reaction of wrecks in the Truck Series.
You know, one of the things from the Truck Series and any series we get a lot of is that we don't like long, boring races. So NASCAR came up with a 20-minute caution clock. We start the flag. If we can run 20 minutes of green flag racing, they put out a caution clock. I have participated the entire year so far with it. I love it. I think it allows the teams to plan on a note and not worry about phantom cautions. The only cautions we now have are the 20-minute clock or wrecks, and we saw plenty of those on Friday night.
Absolutely. Quickly look ahead to Dover. What can we expect there?
It's one of the triple headers we haven't had since Atlanta. We look forward to all 3 series on the track, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Tons of action. That track eats places up, eats people up, a lot of incidences. The drivers have to fight. It's a lot of very fatiguing. They need to be physically fit to go in there. The concrete changes. A lot of rubber gets put down. The cautions come out.
Landing that we talked about.
Yeah, it's a very interesting track. You're jumping off of a 4 or 5-story building every corner. The track lays rubber down. The cautions come out. It picks rubber back up. It's constantly changing. Very, very intriguing track up at Dover.
A lot of fun for sure. Now, earlier in the show, we mentioned that Kyle Busch has now crossed one of the tracks off the list that he hasn't won at. That one was Kansas. Here's what he had to say about picking up the others.
There's 2 that I haven't won at, and those 2, man, I've had so many opportunities to win at those places. I've not had very many opportunities to win here, so I'm pretty confident that we can knock those off the list, and I'm excited about that opportunity. And working with this team of guys and Adam Stevens and everybody that he's assembled, it's so much fun. This group is really means a lot to me, and let's go on and
You've been
back up
listening
what we
to
did last year.
MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Tune in again next Monday at noon Eastern for all the latest news, results, and interviews from NASCAR on MotorRacingNetwork.com. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand at the MotorRacingNetwork.com Media Center. Or you can download it from iTunes or Stitcher. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.